Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. Where else would you rather be than a Zoom full of Penn Staters? I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and I want to welcome everyone to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. Each week on Coffee Hour, you can expect to hear the voices of Penn Staters talking about what they are passionate about, and you can expect to feel the pride of Sorry about that. You can expect to feel the pride and the power of the Penn State Network. And I just want to let everybody know that we are recording this session so that we can share it with other Penn Staters so that they can feel the pride and hear the story of today's guests, who is Corinne Findlay. So Corinne is the chapter president of Penn State's Public Relations Student Society of America. She's also, in full disclosure, a staff member at the Penn State Alumni Association. And so I'm excited to welcome Corinne to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, so for Penn Staters who might not be familiar with PRSSA, tell us a little bit about the organization.
Yeah, so I am actually now the former president of the chapter of Penn State's Public Relations Student Society of America. It is a nationally recognized pre-professional organization that has about 350 chapters nationwide. The parent organization is the professional chapter called the Public Relations Society of America. So what we do basically is, provide networking resources, personal branding resources, career development resources to our members. From day one joining the organization, I knew it was one of those things that I had to do to get ahead of the game and really set myself apart as a student at Penn State. So I'm really glad that I decided to join as my fall semester as a sophomore, and then I was able to, eventually run the entire organization at Penn State. And I really highly recommend it to any students involved, whether you're a PR major or just a communications major in general.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about that process. How did you get involved with PRSSA?
Yeah, so going into my freshman year, I actually came in as a broadcast journalism major. TV, journalism, etc., really caught my attention with my high school's TV program. So I actually never really knew what public relations was coming into college, but I had taken an introduction to branding course with the dean of the College of Communications, Marie Hardin, and she really taught us a lot about what PR is and how to not only build your personal brand, but build the personal brand or build the brand of an organization or a company. And then I realized, this is what public relations is. So going into my summer of right after freshman year, I was able to have an internship at a public relations firm in New York City. It was a very small boutique agency, and that's where I really was like, okay, yes, PR is for me. So going into the fall of my sophomore year, I had discovered PRSSA on campus through an involvement fair, the one that's usually held on the Hub Lawn in early August. So I joined right away. I knew that I wanted to have a leadership position. I'd always been really passionate about holding leadership roles in high school and throughout college. So I was able to begin my time as a strategic planning chair my first semester of my junior year after being in the organization for a year as a general member. And then I kind of took a pause in the organization because I was studying abroad in the spring of my junior year. And I showed a lot of interest, a lot of commitment, a lot of passion for the organization. And I built a really good relationship with the president prior to me. So through an interview process and an application process, I was selected as the president for the 2019-2020 year. And early in May, we had completed our process of transitions for the upcoming year. So I'm still, involved. There's a advisor transition going on now, leadership transition, obviously. So I just actually joined PRSSA, which is the parent organization. So I'm excited to get involved in the next step of the industry.
Excellent. Before you get involved in the next step, though, maybe take us through what the role of the president looks like for the student version of that organization.
Yeah, so a lot of what the chapter president role entails is maintaining external relationships for the organization rather than internal. So what I primarily was doing on a day-to-day basis was talking to our professional advisors, talking to our academic advisors, talking to the national organization, which is headquartered on Wall Street in New York City, as well as maintain the relationship with the university, make sure we're meeting the guidelines and the policies that the university has instilled. Also making sure that we're keeping up our relationship with the alumni of the organization. You know, there's so many, as we know, being part of the Penn State Alumni Association, there's so many great resources just in the alumni ourselves. So, you know, looking at the people who graduated the year before me, or the people who graduated a few years before me, or even more than that, we have a really strong relationship with the first chapter president of PRSSA from 1998. Her name is Meredith. So, you know, just keeping all of those relationships really strong was very important to me. And also delegation. I a lot of times would have tasks from various different points of communication, and then I would have to, you know, assign that down to my board members. I was in charge of, I believe, 9 directors and 4 committee chairs. So that's what the leadership structure looked like in the organization. And then overall, I was in charge of almost 100 general members. So our organization grew a lot from my previous year to the year that I was president, which was a really great accomplishment that we had. So overall, besides the external communication and delegation and whatnot, really just encouraging and inviting, welcoming, friendly, empowering environment that all members felt comfortable coming into the chapter meetings or general meetings on a weekly basis. I think that was definitely the most important role that I had in being the chapter president and being the leader of the organization.
Okay, so I didn't know you started as a broadcast journalism major, so now I'm super nervous to be conducting this interview. Maybe we should flip roles here.
No, I really never. I was like a broadcast journalism major freshman year, not really having taken many courses yet.
Sure.
But then follow my sophomore year, I took intro to PR. So it was a hot minute that I was a broadcast journalism major.
This is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford, and I'm joined today by now the past president of the PRSSA chapter at Penn State, Corinne Findlay. So Corinne, let's start right at the very beginning. How did you become a Penn State Nittany Lion?
Yeah, Penn State actually was never on my radar in high school. I don't know why, because I always wanted to go to a big school that had a lot of camaraderie, school spirit, obviously a great network of alumni. I knew that was really important because my high school teacher, shout out to Mrs. Burley, she always reiterated, it's all about who you know, it's about your network, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, okay, I need to go to a school that has a big network. And I remember I applied to Penn State, and I was like, I'm not touring Penn State until I actually find out that I get into Penn State, because I know it checks all the boxes of what I want. So I don't want to fall in love with the school and not get into it.
Right.
So I got into Penn State, and then the next week later, me and my mom took a trip up to University Park. I remember it was probably the coldest day I've ever experienced in my entire life. I was actually miserable walking around, and I had no idea where I was going. So we were freezing, and I was like, if I love the school this much and I'm like freezing and I like just want to go home, I'm going to love it on any other sunny day here in Happy Valley. So through Acceptance Students Day and my general tour with the line ambassadors and whatnot, I was like, this school really checks all the boxes of what I want. It had an amazing communication school. I remember like a week or so after I got accepted, I received a letter from Marie Harden. She was sending out to all the accepted students of the Donald P. Bellisario College of Communications. And she kind of was just talking about all the credentials of the school and the reputation of the school and everything. And I was like, wow, like this could really be somewhere that like I could get a degree from. So it was really exciting to me. I was like, this is a wonderful opportunity. Penn State was everything that I was looking for. You know, a lot of what I was like excited for was, you know, big school resources, small school feel. And that's really, really what it turned out to be. And I'm so, so glad that I picked Penn State. And I talk about it all the time. And, you know, sometimes my friends from home will joke with me like, oh, like, you go to Penn State? Like, you love Penn State so much. I was like, yes, like,
Right.
if you go to Penn State, everyone's going to know you go to Penn State because it's such a big name and an awesome place to call home for 4 years.
And you grew up in New Jersey, and so you didn't have any in-state options that fit those bills, and so and so it's great that you came across the border to Penn State. Uh, you mentioned Marie Harden a couple of times, and certainly not a question that I was anticipating asking you, but she is a what I would call a hands-on dean, right? You mentioned you had her in the classroom, how present she is, how the students really seem to know and connect with her. Talk a little bit about maybe her influence on you during your time at Penn State.
Yeah, so like I said, the class that I took my first semester freshman year, it was like a seminar class. It was 1 credit. It was 1 day a week. But I remember just always looking forward to going to that class. Obviously, as the dean of the communication school, I looked up to her so much and her credentials and everything. Being a freshman, it was a little intimidating, taking a class from the dean. I was like, oh my gosh, like, is she going to know my name? Is she not going to know
Right.
my name? Um, and over the years, she would just always, be a friendly face, no matter who you were, what major you were, what year you were. If she saw you for 1 minute or had a 5-minute conversation with you, she would always go out of her way to, make you feel welcomed and comfortable and want to give you all the resources possible. And then as chapter president, my senior year, I was able to be a part of the student leadership cabinet in the College of Communications, which is a group of students, basically all the presidents, executive directors, managing editors of all the communications organizations you could think of on campus. Onward State, Daily Collegian, 46 Live, Valley, Happy Valley Communications, PRSSA, etc. And there we met about once a month, and she would always really want to hear what we have to say as student leaders. What can we do better? What can she do better? What can her staff and faculty do better? It was really all about, pushing the college forward, pushing the university forward. And even when the semester went virtual, we still met, which I really appreciated. She wanted to get our feedback on our experience, our organization's experience with the transition in our, daily life, basically. And she also was able to really, really keep us updated with the media center that's being built on campus. That's a new addition to the College of Communications. So that was really, really helpful. And overall, she really was, a student first type of dean where she cared so much about the student experience and what we get out of our 4 years at Penn State. And, we could see that as students, and especially as a student leader, it really shined through, and I really appreciated it.
So what really stands out to me about your experience at Penn State was how you really took advantage of the numerous opportunities to get professional experiences as a student. Talk through some of those experiences, whether it's your internship at the Alumni Association or working on the comm agency or some of the other experiences that you've had.
Yeah, so again, I remember, for those of you who know Bob Martin, who is the Assistant Dean of Careers and Internship Placement in the College Comm, from day one, or even before day one, like my accepted students say, he always reiterated the importance of internships, especially in communications. It is so important. So I remember the summer after my freshman year, I was able to get a marketing internship at that PR agency that I had mentioned prior. And I honestly think it was a little bit of luck and a little bit of being a go-getter that I got that. Because after your freshman year, it's definitely not common to have an internship. And I think that really set me up for success for the rest of my college experience. And then that November, I was interviewing with the Penn State Alumni Association. So I've been with you guys now since November 2017, which is awesome. And I basically just explained, my passion for, the Penn State network, reaching out to professionals, my passion for communications, how I really wanted to, grow my professional experience on campus. So with my summer internship and the Penn State Alumni Association the following summer, I was able to get a public relations internship at Coin PR, which is located in Parsippany, New Jersey, and New York City. So I was interning at their Parsippany headquarters, which is not far from where I live. There I was able to work on various clients and everything, and that was a very traditional public relations internship that I had, and I loved every single minute of that job. I loved the company, I loved my team, I loved my coworkers, the other interns. The executive leadership team would come on by and talk to the interns like we were their coworkers that worked adjacent to them. So I really appreciated that experience, and that really set me up for my internship that I had last summer at Comcast Corporation in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I was on their corporate communications team. So that was definitely a different role because it was in-house. So on the contrary from an agency role where you're working on multiple different clients, I was working on, so to speak, one client for Comcast. So I was working on their Xfinity consumer products and doing the PR and the comms for that. So that was really, really exciting. And I loved getting exposed to like a huge company. And just like I love being at a huge school like Penn State, I really enjoyed being at a huge company like Comcast. I think in many ways I thrive in those situations. I kind of see it as a challenge, like it's harder to stand out. So you got to work a lot harder kind of to stand out. And yeah, so through all of those professional experiences, I've had, been able to develop my resume in a really strong way. Also, obviously through PRSSA, I was involved in Happy Valley Communications on campus, which is the student-run communications firm. I don't think I would have actually had all of those various opportunities if it wasn't for going to Penn State. I know I had met the Comcast recruiters at a career fair at Penn State. But yeah, like I said, it's all about, making those connections. And I think Penn State really instills that in you from day one, especially as a communications major.
So, Corinne, talk a little bit about some of the other things that you were involved in as a student. I know that Thon was important to you while you were at Penn State.
Yeah, Thon was definitely very important to me. My high school actually had a mini-thon, and my high school physics teacher was actually a Penn Stater. So he always talked about Penn State, and I still was like, it wasn't really on my radar, which was so weird to me thinking back. But he, started hosting the mini-thon my junior year of high school, and I still was kind of confused as to what it was. I knew, standing for X amount of hours, supporting our local hospital here, in the cancer center, whatnot. So then coming to Penn State, I knew what Thon was, but I didn't know the extent of what Penn State Thon was. And I remember my freshman year, just like walking into the BJC was an unreal feeling. And I know it sounds so cliche because everyone says that, but another cliche is like you really don't understand what Thon is until you experience it firsthand. And I have so much passion for Thon. I'm so excited to continue, donating, being a part of it. There's the alumni group, the alumni interest group for Thon that I'm excited to hopefully, get involved in and whatnot. But I was at Thon every year except for junior year because I was studying abroad. But freshman year, sophomore year, senior year, donating, fundraising, doing anything I could on a weekly, monthly basis leading up to it. So from September 2016 to now, it's definitely been a big part of my Penn State experience and something that I'm super passionate about. And I encourage every single Penn Stater to get involved in it. And I know many other universities have their own version of Thon. So for anyone at any university, if you have any opportunity similar to Thon, definitely get involved because it's inspiring and you meet so many amazing, amazing people.
You mentioned study abroad a couple times, and preparing Penn Staters to be global citizens is one of the things that we are focused on at Penn State. Talk a little bit about your travel abroad experience.
Yeah, so I knew going into college that I wanted to study abroad. And it was definitely one of those things that I was looking for in opportunities when touring colleges. And it was something it's basically like a bucket list thing to me. Like you can only study abroad for so many, like only in college basically. So going into, I remember my sophomore year, I was applying or looking into programs, and leading up even to the day that I left, I was always super anxious about it, to be honest. I was, you know, it's one of those things where you're never fully ready to do it until you actually get thrown on the plane and you're like, all right, here I go. But I studied abroad in Florence, Italy. I did the International Studies Institute program, which is a really, really popular program for Penn State, and I did it with some of my closest friends, which I was really, really happy about, because I knew that I would probably have struggled more if I was doing it all by myself. So I was able to pick up a global and international studies minor for my study abroad experiences. I learned a little bit of Italian. I took courses on art history, on the food culture of Italy, which is so much different than America. And even outside of the classroom, I feel like I learned more just from traveling from place to place. I was able to go to dozens of cities and multiple countries throughout the 4 months, which was an amazing learning experience. Yeah, like just being exposed to an uncomfortable environment every single week, like going somewhere, not knowing how to use the currency, not knowing how to communicate to buy something. Definitely outside of my comfort zone. I did a story on it for the Alumni Association about a year ago. And definitely what I talk about in that is about my confidence building, being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that actually has a lot to do with what we're living right now with coronavirus. Everything's changed in front of us. So in a way, I think that experience has definitely prepared me, definitely prepared me in a way for, what life looks right now, like I just said, being comfortable when you're not comfortable. But studying abroad was something I will never forget for the rest of my life. I highly recommend it to every single student that steps foot on Penn State's campus. It was a priceless opportunity to be able to travel and learn in a different country for 4 months, and I loved every single minute of it.
So you mentioned COVID-19 and how studying abroad helped you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Talk a little bit about kind of where you were when you learned about how the semester was going to be interrupted by COVID-19, and then ultimately going to a remote learning setting. And then that's how your time at Penn State would, at least your student time at Penn State, would conclude. So talk a little bit about kind of your experience through all of that.
Yeah, so I left for spring break, as many of us did. It was March 6th, which was my last day on campus as a student, which is so weird. I remember I was leaving and we were so excited, and I was going on an international trip with my friends. So at that time, we were very concerned. We were like, are we going to be able to travel internationally? Are we going to be like stuck there? Are we going to be able to come back? There was no consideration of the semester getting canceled at that point.
Right.
And within a week, everything changed, which is so crazy. I remember when I was away on spring break, it had been declared a national health emergency. Universities started canceling. One of my brothers goes to Fordham University, which is in the Bronx.
Right.
He plays baseball there. So because of the location being in New York, that his school was one of the first to pull the plug for the entire year. And when Ohio State and Indiana and all those other Big Ten schools started pulling the plug, I was like, okay, we're probably not going to be back for 2 weeks. So I got home from spring break on March 14th, which I remember I was walking through the airport. I was not walking through the airport. I was like running through the airport because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to get sick. And I remember just a week before that, I was in the Philly airport thinking nothing of it.
Right.
So it was crazy how everything went from 0 to 100, and I'm sure everyone has a relatable experience to that. And then a few days later, I went to go get my things at my apartment at Penn State because there was a lot of things I needed there for the 2 weeks. But, at that point, we kind of knew, like, oh, there's a possibility of the rest of the semester being canceled. And I remember I was on a meeting with the Penn State Alumni Association with Kathy and the team, and they had pulled the plug for the whole semester. And I was just like, I was in shock, but I was also not surprised. But it definitely as a senior, especially I think whether you're a high school senior or a college senior, it was kind of like you had to cope with the loss of the experiences and the traditions and all of those things that happen at the end of your senior year. Um, not seeing a bunch of people that I had expected to see again, not being able to say goodbye to a bunch of my friends that don't live in the area, don't live
Right.
in my area. So then learning remotely actually went very smoothly for me personally. My professors were very in touch with us, very open to being flexible and whatnot. But yeah, I've been saying this since the middle of March when this all happened. Like down the road as a class of 2020 member, it could be a way to, create a memorable conversation with a recruiter or an executive at a company. It could be part of our story, entering the career force in probably the worst time in modern American history, graduating college during a global pandemic that we haven't seen since 1918. It's very tough, but it's an adversity that I think will only make the class of 2020 members stronger as the years go by and as we, begin to really step foot into our career path.
There's no doubt about that. This is the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. I'm Paul Clifford, and I'm joined today by Penn State's PRSSA, now past president, Corinne Findlay. So, Corinne, your degree's in public relations. So, what's next?
Yes, so I originally had secured a postgraduate internship opportunity in New York City, but that program was unfortunately canceled because of coronavirus, especially because New York City is the epicenter of the pandemic right now. Thankfully, they just started opening up on Monday, so things are slowly but surely shifting back to normal. But because the opportunity, because the plug was pulled on that, I, let the Alumni Association know that my opportunity was canceled in an email when my boss reached out to me and wanted to hear an update on my end. And Kathy and my boss Jason were gracious enough, and you, Paul, and everyone at the Alumni Association was gracious enough to extend my time with the Alumni Association. So in a perfect world, I would have graduated in May, ended my internship in May, started my postgraduate career on June 1st. But I've been with the Alumni Association still every single week since November 2017. So as a strategic communications intern, I'll be with the Alumni Association through the summer. Interviewing, networking with companies right now, very limited. Definitely networking, keeping my previous network updated on what I'm doing and what I'm looking for, as well as reaching out to new professionals in the industry, I think is really
Right.
important. But, being mindful that everyone's going through their own type of altered schedule, their own type of altered lifestyle right now. I think that's really important. So, just being optimistic in the situation is definitely the most important thing. And I know a lot of people are also in my shoes. Thankfully, I can stay at home with my family. I'm living in a very opportunity-filled area. I'm not too far from New York City. I'm in North Jersey. There's a lot of companies that I'm interested in this area. But during the summer, besides the Penn State Alumni Association, I'm taking part in 2 programs. One is run by the PR Council, and it's called the Agency Ready Certificate. So because I want to start my career at a public relations agency, this is an amazing certificate program with programming. Like 6 times a week, you tune into webinars, and it's lasting through the end of July, I believe.
Great.
And it's with executives from various agencies worldwide about various different topics, coronavirus related and not. So that's been really great. It actually just started on Monday. And I'm also taking part in a masterclass fellowship program that is being hosted by the company that I was supposed to be working for currently. And they had exclusively offered that to the interns that they were supposed to have. first come, first serve. And then they also opened it up to the public on an application basis. So that's a public relations oriented type of program that I'm also taking part in. So between the internship and those programs and networking, I think I've definitely been keeping myself busy, which is great. I'm definitely not the type of person who can just sit back and do nothing. I function a lot better when I have a lot going on.
Right.
But moving forward, I'm hoping to secure a full-time job late August, September time. That's kind of what it's looking like right now, except, there's really no mirror ball or anyone that really can predict the timeline going forward.
Right.
But that's what my life is looking like right now as a Penn State alumni.
Absolutely. All right. So you've watched Coffee Hour before. You know we like to have a little bit of fun here at the end of each program. So we're going to do a lightning round here. I'm going to throw some things at you, and you just pick one or the other, or kind of give the first thing that pops to mind. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sheetz or Wawa?
Wawa, New Jersey. Yeah.
All right. Favorite spot on campus?
Beaver Stadium, I would say.
All right. OS or the Collegian?
Onward State.
Yeah. All right. TikTok or Snapchat?
Snapchat.
You might have already answered this, but your favorite building on campus?
Beaver Stadium, maybe. That's a hard one. Maybe Old Main, just because it's so beautiful. I don't know. Yeah.
Your favorite pizza place in State College?
Snap Pizza. I actually like the best. Yeah.
Awesome. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Your favorite place to eat on campus?
On campus?
On campus.
I would always every single day, I would get a salad at the Hub Salad Bar.
All right. How about Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Dunkin', yeah, for sure.
I think I can predict this next one, but your favorite Penn State sport?
Football.
Football. Favorite place to study, the library or the Hub?
The Hub for sure.
And your favorite flavor of creamery ice cream?
I like the peanut butter swirl flavor a lot. But I like every single flavor that they have, to be honest.
Absolutely. All right. Some word association here. So when I say this word, what kind of pops to mind? So, and actually some of them are 2 words, some of them are multiple words, but Nittany Lion.
Football.
For the Glory.
Go State.
Class of 2020.
Coronavirus.
We are.
Penn State.
So, Corinne, I want to thank you for joining us here on Coffee Hour. I know that a number of people have tuned in. I know there are people watching on Facebook Live right now as well. And I want to open it up to any questions that people might have. If you have a question, if you could just use the reactions tab down in the bottom to raise your hand or put a thumbs up, and I'll go ahead and call on you to unmute yourself, and you can ask your question then. So any questions for Corinne today? Let me check on Facebook. So Courtney's iPhone. Courtney, go ahead and ask a question.
My name is Courtney Wozniak. I actually was a former PRSSA president myself, which is today.
So Courtney's breaking up a little bit. It sounds like we have a former PRSSA president online with us here, though.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, I am too. Sorry, Courtney, we're having trouble hearing you.
I'm happy to hear that she's on, though.
Absolutely. How about you, Joanne? What questions do you have? You're muted.
Helps if I unmute. Yes, it does help if I unmute. I was just wondering if you have student debt.
If I have student debt?
Yeah. And how bad is it?
Do not give a number. Do not get personal.
Well, fortunately, I have very, very little of it. So it's definitely not a main concern, but, I, I'm thankful that I have had, really supportive parents, both, emotionally, financially, etc. So I know many people are in a hard situation right now, with no job and with student debt they need to be paying in 6 months. But yeah, thankfully, not much at all. But yeah, I'm really thankful for the resources that Penn State's putting together for people in these hard times to deal with situations like that.
Excellent. Thank you. Any more questions for Corinne today? I know we have a comment coming in here on Facebook from Misha Demchuk. It says, "You're awesome, Corinne Findlay. So glad the PSAA brought us together. Can't wait to watch all that you accomplish."
I love Misha. She's been great. She was welcoming to me since day one, and as a young alumni herself, she's been a great friendly face to pass in the office, when we were there, and even still, she's been awesome, working on the Pride Project and whatnot, Paul. But yeah, happy to hear that she gave me the shout out.
Excellent. Debbie, you have a question.
Hi, I'm coming from Florida, Gainesville, Florida, at Levin College of Law and University of Florida. But I just had a question, like where we're dealing with commencement. So what happened with your commencement? What was your commencement experience during all this chaos and COVID?
Yeah, so I know school by school is very different, and it has a lot to do with the region and the location of the university. I am not quite sure how the University of Florida was handling it, but for Penn State, what we did was we had a virtual commencement on our actual commencement day, which was May 9th. We had special guests tune in, such as Joe Jonas, who is a beloved Penn State fan, and other notable speakers, which was really awesome. There was really great social media interaction on that day from the university to, share people's stories and how they spent their virtual commencement. As for an in-person commencement, Penn State has promised to schedule one in the future. However, we haven't gotten information on that yet. Like I said, no one can really predict what's coming. So will there be a bounce back of the pandemic in the fall? What's that going to look like? So hoping to one day walk across the stage, but we will see if that day comes. But yeah, Penn State is planning to hold an in-person commencement, but the information on that right now is limited.
Corinne, talk a little bit about what your family did for you.
Yeah, so it was super cute. The day before commencement, my mom and dad scheduled a surprise car parade for me with family, friends, neighbors, like people from in-state and out-of-state. They came, drove by, they set up like a huge balloon display on my front lawn. All my friends and family were driving by. You've probably seen a million on the news. But, to have it happen to you and to not know it's going to happen is really, really uplifting. Especially that week, I was like, oh, I was supposed to have like one of the best weeks of my life this week, like leading up to graduation, but I'm just stuck at home. So that was an amazing, amazing day. I loved every single minute of it. It really made so much of a difference in the whole graduation process, I guess you could say. And then the day of, my whole family gathered around the TV. We were watching. Yeah, it was awesome. I'm the oldest child, so, to have I'm the oldest child and the only girl. So to have their first baby, get a college degree was exciting for them. And I wrote my parents this very thoughtful kind of letter, thanking them for all their support throughout the years of schooling that day. And it brought tears to their eyes, and it was emotional, but it was as amazing as it could have been, which is I'm really thankful for.
That is great. Yeah, I loved seeing all of those Penn State signs and all the blue and white shakers right there in the heart of New Jersey. It was great to show people in New Jersey what school spirit looks like.
Oh yes, every time I walk around the neighborhood now in my Penn State shirt, everyone's like, "Oh, like congratulations!" Because like now every single person in the neighborhood, whether I know them or not, is
Right.
like knew about my car parade.
That is great. Well, that is all the time that we have here on Coffee Hour. I want to thank you for sharing your story with fellow Penn Staters, and I want to thank everyone else that has tuned in to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. We appreciate you watching. Join us next Wednesday evening. Take note, special time next Wednesday evening, 6 p.m. It's a little late to be having coffee in the day, but it is a special edition of Coffee Hour. It's the We Are Weekend edition. As you know, We Are Weekend at Penn State is our reunion weekend, and again, that has been postponed and put on hold because of coronavirus. But we're going to bring you a panel discussion with two members from the class of 1970. They'll be joined by two members of the class of 2020, and we'll talk about the similar experiences that they had at Penn State, contrast some differences. It seems like history repeats itself where during 1970, there was a lot of social unrest, right? The shooting at Kent State happened, which now seems to mirror some of the things that we're experiencing here in modern day America, unfortunately. And so we look forward to bringing that to you next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much, Paul. I really